What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC Vegas 50. We have Magomed Ankalaev going against Thiago Santos.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another DFS breakdown. This week, breaking down a very fun fight card, very tough card, I'd say, from a DraftKings perspective, but going to be breaking it down here. So yeah, I think we have like 14 fights as well, so it should be a good time. As always, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Just recently hit 14K. The goal is to get 15K, hopefully before my birthday, which is in June. I think we can definitely do that. So help me out. Hit the sub button. It does mean a lot. I say we just get right into it. We have a lot to talk about. We'll start as always with the fight doesn't go to decision lines, and we have Pereira Silva minus 600. Fight doesn't go to decision. I saw FanDuel Sportsbook put this out at minus 750. So it's safe to say, this fight is going to end inside the distance. This fight probably ends within a round and a half as well. We see the under 1.5 rounds is around minus 170, and you don't see that too often. But I'm going to be playing both sides here. I think you have to. Obviously, Alex Pereira 8,900. If he wins, it's probably going to be a knockout. It's probably going to be a first round knockout. Whereas if you have Bruno Silva, if he wins, it's probably going to be a knockout, and it's probably going to be a first round knockout. Also, I think there's some takedown upside with Bruno Silva as well. If I'm Bruno Silva, I'm coming in here and I'm getting this fight down to the mat. If he chooses to stand and bang with Pereira, yeah, there's a good chance he gets knocked out, especially considering that Pereira is going to be much bigger with a 4-inch height advantage and a 6-inch reach advantage. But I know one thing is for certain, pretty much, somebody's going to get finished here, and I think it's a very important fight to target and a very exciting fight as well. We have Fletcher Semelsberger at minus 270. Fight doesn't go to decision. You have two guys that are most definitely finishers here. Matt Semelsberger going to be the more experienced fighter. He has 12 fights. He's fought the better competition. He has a couple fights in the UFC. Matt Semelsberger also going to be much bigger with a 3-inch height advantage and also a massive 8-inch reach advantage. So, I like both sides here as well. Semelsberger definitely very expensive at 9,300, but we've seen some of the power this guy's had thus far in the UFC. Knocking out Jason Witt with like the very first punch he threw. Knocking out Sano in like a minute in his last fight as well. And Fletcher has shown a ton of power in his own right. I've seen him knock out guys with the very first punch he throws. Fletcher 88% finish rate. Semelsberger 78% finish rate. Semelsberger's also been knocked out and submitted, whereas we do see that Fletcher has never been finished as he is undefeated. So, big price tag here on Semelsberger, but I think he can definitely win here. But Fletcher's a very intriguing punt play. I do think he'll have some ownership as well. I see a lot of people on the Fletcher side, and, rightfully so. This guy looks like an absolute beast. There's just not a ton of information out there on him. I was only able to watch 3 fights of him, but what I have seen is, this guy is very dangerous anywhere the fight goes. So, another fight that I do want to target both sides, and another fight that should be very exciting and probably does finish. Marlon Moraes, Song Yadong, minus 220. Fight doesn't go to decision. And I think this fight has a good chance of finishing as well. Marlon Moraes at this point is, round 1 or bust. This guy's chin is just not there. The cardio's not there. At least with Song Yadong, he's going to be the younger fighter by like 9 years. He's going to have the better chin by a mile. He's going to have the better cardio by a mile. But Marlon Moraes is very, very dangerous in the first round. We saw in his last fight against Merab Dvalishvili where he was very close to finishing Merab. But once we saw, Merab was able to, get his wits right back about him. He was able to survive. It looked like Marlon Moraes just did not have anything left. So, if Song Yadong survives the first round, I think he wins this fight, probably inside the distance. But you got to have some Marlon Moraes as a pump play, just because if he does win, it's probably in the first round. Drew Dober, Terrence McKinney, minus 210. Fight doesn't get to decision, and I think this fight finishes inside the distance as well. And I'm actually more confident this fight finishes than like the Song Moraes and Fletcher Semelsberger. And the reason is because Terrence McKinney is indeed a kill or be killed fighter. Terrence McKinney in 15 fights, he's been to the third round 1 time. He's never been over 2.5 rounds. He's obviously never been to a decision. He has a 100% finish rate in his wins and in his losses. Drew Dober, this guy has a ton of power, 70% finish rate. And Drew Dober has been finished in 5 losses, 4 coming by submission. So, I like Drew Dober here personally, but Terrence McKinney is going to have opportunities here for a potential submission and an early submission as well. I don't think he knocks out Dober. Dober has a very good chin on him, but Terrence McKinney could potentially take this fight down to the mat and get a sub. Dober, again, has been submitted 4 times. Dober does not have the best takedown defense, but I'm more so on the Dober side myself, but man, Terrence McKinney, 7,200 is something that you do not want to pass up. So again, I'll have both sides here, and I think this fight definitely finishes. All right, getting into our core plays here, Magomed Ankalaev, 9,600. I hate the price tag. And I think in tournaments you can get away with maybe not playing him in some lineups, fading him some lineups. I wouldn't fade him completely, but I think in tournaments you can get away from some of that. But in cash especially, I just feel really safe with Magomed Ankalaev in my lineup. I know he's expensive, but he's going to have 5 rounds to work with. I think there is takedown upside. I think there is finish upside. Thiago Santos, 38 years old at this point. I think he has not looked like the same Thiago Santos in a couple of years now. And on top of that, Santos has also been finished in 6 of his 9 losses. So I like Ankalaev here more so from a cash perspective. Again, in tournaments, I don't think you got to go all in or nothing like that, but I do think Ankalaev does win this fight, and I feel pretty comfortable with that. Azamat Murzakanov, 8,800. A little more risky here because we do have a UFC debutant here making his debut, going against Stefan Nchukwu. And yeah, I mean, this guy, he just looks good. He looks really good to me. I mean, he's well-rounded, has a ton of power in his hands. He can be low volume. I do question the gas tank, but the wrestling is good, looks good. And I think if you can get on top of Stefan Nchukwu, especially early on, I think the fight's going to be over. I did not like what I saw from Stefan Nchukwu on his back in his last fight 2 fights ago against Jung Young Park. Kind of looked like a fish out of water when he got taken down, and I think if Azamat gets him down, I think he probably finishes here. So I like Azamat. I like him to win in the first round, and 8,800, I'll definitely have some shares. Drew Dober talked about the fight a little bit. I do like him to win. He's the more experienced fighter. He's fought the better competition by a mile. He's going to have the better gas tank. McKinney's coming in on short notice. I think McKinney, at least early on, can give Dober some problems, but I think as the fight goes on, I think McKinney slows down. I think Dober starts to stuff those takedowns easier and easier, and eventually I think Dober knocks out McKinney. But yeah, definitely a fight right here at Dober and McKinney. We're going to want both sides, but I do like Dober's side myself. At 9,000, I will be having some Drew Dober for sure. Carl Roberson, 8,200. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good fight to target as a whole. You have Roberson at 8,200, and then you have Roundtree at 8,000. I think that, if Roundtree does win, I think that it's going to be probably a first-round knockout, so I think Roundtree's a very solid play in his own right, but I really like Roberson here. You take a look at Roberson, and how does he lose? It's typically by submission. Well, it is by submission. He's only lost 4 times, and all 4 of them come by submission. He's not going to have to worry about that here. Roundtree has 0 takedowns. I think Roberson's going to be the minute winner here anywhere the fight goes. I think if there's takedowns, it actually can come from Roberson here. Roundtree has like a 50% takedown defense. And yeah, I think outside of a Roundtree knockout, I think Roberson's, going to win this fight anywhere it goes. I can see Roberson winning by knockout. I can see Roberson winning by decision, submission. I just think he has way more paths to victory. And at 8,200, I do think it's a solid fight to target there. But I will sprinkle some Roundtree just in case he does, just in case he is the first one to knock out Carl Roberson. GPP plays here, tournament plays. Alex Pereira is the definition of a GPP play. I mean, this guy has first round upside. It's a minus 600 fight, doesn't go to decision. Somebody's getting knocked out early. I think you have to play this fight, and you have to play some Alex Pereira at 8,900. I think it'll be very popular, but for a very good reason. This guy's very dangerous. Miranda Maverick, 9,400. Very pricey. I don't like the price tag, but I do think she has some solid upside here in terms of, taking Mazo down to the mat. Mazo's takedown defense very questionable. Her get-up game is very questionable. She does not have a willingness to work her way back up to her feet, and I think Maverick can just rack up takedowns here. She can rack up control time, maybe get a submission. Again, very, very pricey, but I do think she has some upside there. Song Yadong at 9,200. I think he has to survive that early storm. That Moraes is going to bring as long as he does not get knocked out, submit in the first round. I think Song Yadong eventually knocks out Marlon Moraes at some point in this fight. I think he's even live for a first-round knockout. Moraes has been knocked out 6 times. The chin's not there. The cardio's not there. I think Song Yadong can finish Moraes here. And then Jillian Robertson, 8,500, kind of in this mid-range here. A fighter I always like playing at Draftkings because we know if Robertson's going to win, if she's able to get her way in this fight, she's going to get takedown, she's going to get control time, and she might even get a submission here. So at 8,500, I think it's worth playing some Jillian Robertson. I am personally picking J.J. Aldrich outright, but In terms of a DraftKings perspective, I'd much rather, play the Robertson side. I think she has finish upside, whereas JJ Aldrich, I don't think she could really finish anybody. So give me Robertson here as far as a GPP play. Live dogs, Terrence McKinney, 7,200. This guy's a finisher. Again, he's never won a fight that has went over 2.5 rounds. I know he has a third round win, but the majority of his wins are coming in the first round and very early as well. We saw it in his debut against Matt Frevola. We saw it in his last fight against Farah with the submission. And I think if he does win here, it's probably in the first round. At 7,200, it is 100% worth some shots here. So I'll be taking some shots on Terrence McKinney. I think if he does win, he scores very well. Bruno Silva, 7,300, same thing. I think if Bruno Silva wins, I think there is takedown upside. I think he's getting takedowns on Alex Pereira. His ground and pound is vicious. I think someone's getting finished here, probably in the first round. So in this fight, I will be playing some Bruno Silva as a live dog here. Khalil Roundtree, 8,000, tons of power. When he does win, it's typically by knockout, unless he's fighting Eric Anders, where he knocked him down 4 times in a decision win. So it's safe to say if Roundtree does win, it's going to score a ton of points. So I will have some Roundtree at 8K. And then finally, Trevin Jones, 7,500. This is a guy that I can't really get a read on. This is a guy that's losing up until he's not thus far in the UFC. He was a huge dog against Mario Batista, and Tamir Valiev was able to knock both of them out. And, we see that Javid is very unproven. He's not fought the best competition at all. He's undefeated, but, he's not fought anybody. And Jones has fought the better competition. He's more experienced, and he's very dangerous anywhere the fight goes. Jones, great submission game, black belt in BJJ. And on top of that, has a ton of power we saw. So I think Trevin Jones, 7,500. And there is some value on that in terms of line value. Trevin Jones, I think, is like plus 115 at this point on the money line. So we're getting a discount there. I don't hate some Trevin Jones at 7,500. Punt Plays, Marlon Moraes, 7K. The definition of a punt play here, round 1 or bust. If he wins, it's in round 1. I don't see him winning in round 2, 3 decision. So I'm going to have some Marlon Moraes just because of that. Again, he was really close to knocking out Rob Dvalishvili in his last fight, but he could do the same thing here. It's just I don't have a ton of confidence in it, but I think you got to have some Marlon Moraes because of that first round upside. And then AJ Fletcher, 6,900. Some unknowns here for sure. I don't know a ton about AJ Fletcher. Again, I was only able to watch 3 fights, but from what I have seen, he has some solid wrestling, has a ton of power. I have seen Matt Semmelsberger taken down, at least outside of the UFC. And Fletcher, this guy looks good. He looks really good, but he's going to be at a massive height and reach advantage. Height and reach disadvantage. He's going to be at an experience disadvantage, a level of competition disadvantage, but I don't know. I think he could be live here. So 6,900, I think, is worth some pump plays. Fades, Chris Moutinho, 8,600. And I think he might get some ownership here. I'm just not sure what Chris Moutinho's good at. He's tough. He has good cardio. I think he's going to have the cardio advantage here. And I'm actually picking him to win. And the reason I'm picking him to win is because he's going to be 13 years younger. He's going to have a cardio advantage. I think Guido Canetti's the better fighter. It's just Guido Canetti has about a round of cardio at this point, and he's only getting older. So I think Moutinho does win, but I think it's like a greasy decision win, split decision, maybe a third round finish potentially. But even then, I just don't like what I see from Moutinho here. But I will pick him to win. But 8,600, I just don't see him finishing Canetti, especially early on. I think if there is a finish, it's late. But I'm saying like a greasy decision. Probably no takedowns from Moutinho as well. And I just don't really like the 8,600. And on top of that, there really wasn't any other fighter I'd fade. There's not a ton to fade, and that's weird to say because there's 14 fights, but I think a lot of these fighters are live. I guess JJ Aldrich would be another fade for me, but Moutinho, Aldrich, probably not going to play much Mazo. But I think up top, I think a lot of those guys are live, and girls, Miranda Maverick. But that is about it. Be sure to leave a like on the video. Also, subscribe here to the channel. It really does help out a ton. Also, if you are not already, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Obviously, you can sign up for the betting, but the DFS is $10 a month. And with that DFS, you get access to my stat model, my MMA lineup optimizer, my DFS articles, premium projections, access to Discord, GPP line percentages, targets and rankings, and much, much more. So we'll talk to you soon. Good luck. Live stream Friday and Saturday. And good luck for UFC Vegas 50.